Hey, and welcome to Holistic Health Hacks with Robin. A little late this week due to you know what happened on Tuesday. So come watch my show probably later tonight. I am going to talk about how to deal with the emotional aftermath of disappointment in the election and fear. So I have a mixed audience of Democrats, Republicans. So anyway, but just really understanding how what we believe affects how we feel. So I'm going to talk about that and some things to do if you're just in having a tough time emotionally after the election. So anyway, I'm going to talk about actually how to prepare for the holidays emotionally. I'm one of those people that for the most part, holidays have really been awesome for me growing up. And in my adult life, probably had a few difficult Thanksgivings and Christmases due to death of family members. But there's lots of reasons around the holidays that people really have a hard time. And so it seems to be exaggerated when everybody else is so happy and there's so much joy out there and people just can't get happy. So I'm going to talk about a couple reasons that is and maybe some things you can do about it. One of the reasons, without being terribly traumatic in your life, is just that you're going to have to be with difficult people. So some of these people may be relatives, they may be in-laws, and just the uncomfortableness or awkwardness sometimes because those people may be, let's say, very critical, you may have unresolved issues with them, can just often make the holidays very unpleasant, and you're really just tolerating them instead of celebrating the holidays. So just going to talk a little bit emotionally about how to do that. So let's say there's a particular relative or an in-law that is just very abrasive or very hard to get along with, or you and them have unresolved issues. So one of the things I can suggest you do, if this is possible, is before the holidays, give them a phone call and just, be transparent. Talk about the pink elephant in the room. Say, hey, we have these issues with each other. I'm not saying we have to resolve them, but can we just agree to maybe avoid each other for this get-together? Let's not be passive-aggressive. Let's not say any digs towards each other. Can we just try to go in with a good attitude, accept where each other's at, agree to disagree, that type of thing. I imagine these holidays are going to be particularly interesting given the election. And pretty much in any larger family scenario, you're going to deal with Republicans and Democrats now under the same roof, having had some alcohol, and trying to have a good time when there's still a lot of emotional aftermath from the outcome of the election. So just, being prepared about that. It doesn't mean you can't. This is a good learning experience of how to resolve conflict, how to apologize, how to get along with difficult people. Take a stance of humility. Is there anything you need to apologize for? And take a stance towards reconciliation with this person. It may be this person's lifestyle, you just don't agree with it or like it. It could be things like that, or vice versa. And maybe just clearing the air before you get together of trying to, set a tone of how you want this holiday to go. But be assertive. Try to make that happen. The other thing you can do is if it's just a very toxic person, you can also learn how to just set some boundaries and learn how to stop a conversation. If you see somebody becoming aggressive or critical, you can learn how sorry, got an interruption. You can learn how to say, hey, we're just not going to talk about that, or, just call a spade a spade. That was a very critical thing to say. There's a lot of emotions that go on in the undercurrent when you're with family. Our family of origins tend to trigger those early childhood emotions where we feel safe, we feel vulnerable, we feel insecure. We don't really feel like adults when we're around older siblings or parents who may be critical. A lot of negative energy that goes on is just because of unfinished business we call from childhood. Take a boundaries course. If you have trouble with confronting people or telling them how you feel or what you want, then let this be an opportunity to decide to do something different and go, okay, I'm gonna try to learn how to be more assertive or set boundaries rather than just smile and pretend everything's okay. So you get to enjoy the holidays. It's your well-being as well. If you're dealing with anxiety and depression, Now we're talking about issues that have to do with maybe chemical imbalance, trauma that's being triggered from past. If holidays have always been bad or difficult or disappointing, where everyone else was celebrated and it wasn't for you, then these are things maybe you want to get some kind of counseling or therapy just to process some of these past hurts and disappointments. If you've lost somebody close around the holiday, that's a little harder to get over. You really have to grieve that. My parents both died in an 11-month period when my oldest two children were really small, and that first Christmas after they died, and my mother-in-law died in between them, so actually we lost 3 parents. My mother-in-law died close to the Thanksgiving, right around Thanksgiving. So there really just had to be a very intentional effort to make the holidays be different. My parents were the glue that kind of held my brothers and I together as getting together, and that changed. So we had to create some new rituals, some new habits, but it was very intentional. It's easy when you have children because children are happy about Christmas no matter what. But you do grieve through the holidays when you've lost somebody close and things have changed. And things are going to continue to change. That really is just the way life is. So you just have to embrace that and choose to go, okay, we're going to do something different. And let's say you're alone and the holidays are something where you are exaggerated, that you don't really have anybody in your life that you're close to. So maybe that's an opportunity to get involved in feeding the homeless, or kind of taking a different stance towards people who are less fortunate, or don't have as much as you have. And sometimes just shifting that attitude towards being able to give can really fill some of that void you feel. Going to retirement homes or old people's homes and just bringing a potted plant or a candy cane around the holidays. So sometimes we can fill that void by just intentionally reaching out and doing something we wouldn't normally do to make it be better. Anyway, but I will say, if you do really deal with anxiety and depression around the holidays, it really is a good idea to try to get some kind of help or therapy for that. Don't just ignore it. It's one of the highest suicide times of the year, and our country is in a particularly vulnerable place right now because of all of the heightened emotion from this election. So I really encourage you, if that's you, to get some help. Also, we're dealing with some seasonal stuff, so if you're not a supplement taker, if you've heard me in my other shows, how important vitamins are, once we start losing sunlight, then our vitamin D declines, and vitamin D can be directly affect depression and anxiety issues. So up your vitamin D, and up your vitamins this time of year for other health reasons as well. But try to pay attention to your brain chemistry. You don't have to live depressed. It's not a state that can't be changed. And I think that's some of people's despair, is they've battled depression for a long time and they think they're stuck in this and they just have to get through it. But for people who have had repeated trauma through their life, it is genuinely a difficult time, especially to see other people really happy and celebrating. And one other tip is just find some simple pleasures. Find some things you enjoy. I really just enjoy at nighttime looking at white Christmas lights on trees and houses, and it just makes me happy. Funny story, I moved to Florida when I was, my parents moved to Florida when I was in college, and I went from Massachusetts, and so I went home the first Christmas, and the palm trees were lined with Christmas lights, and we played golf on Christmas Eve day, and it was a big adjustment coming from expecting snow and your traditional kind of Christmas things that you think of to Christmas in Florida. And it took a couple of years to really get adapted, although I don't like the cold weather, to this kind of Florida Christmas and lit palm trees and Santa Clauses riding in the palm trees, because I kind of thought Santa Claus stayed there the rest of the year, but not at Christmas. Anyway, that was where he vacationed on his off season. So just find ways, but you have to be intentional about this. The other thing I want to say is that make this to be a time where you intentionally reach out. He's still thinking about Santa Claus, but intentionally reach out. Whether you're in the grocery store or just whatever, just speak kindly to people. A lot of hostility going on right now, and we don't know how many people are really just now being triggered and struggling with emotions around the holidays. So just bless people, speak blessings over people, say kind things, just be intentional to be kind. If you, when it comes to the holidays, you're in a situation where you can invite people over maybe who have no place to go, truly let this be a season of giving where you are paying attention to making a corporate difference by just generally having a state of kindness. You just never know. I mean, how many stories do we hear about literally people who are ready to commit suicide and just somebody's kindness changed their mind. So you really don't know what people are going through this time of year. It's just a really good time to be intentional about the energy that you give out, to pay attention to other people, and don't get too busy that you can't find time to do that. And don't feel guilty if this is a season of anxiety or depression for you, because it should be a season of happiness and joy. I have clients whose family members committed suicide around the holidays, and that is just huge. Just suicide itself is so traumatic for the family members, and that trauma is hard to work through over the years. It doesn't just go away easily, and then when it's around the holidays, it's really, really exaggerated. So, pay attention. If you're not one of those people who struggles during the holidays, let this be a time to just pay attention. And if you are one of those people that really struggles for whatever reason, this is either a time to decide to change things in your family dynamic, change yourself, and your experience will change, or get some help for what is this chronic holiday depression and anxiety. Okay, well, have a great day. If you have any specific questions, feel free to private message me. And I am going to talk maybe later tonight because I'm late on my holistic health hacks. I really want to talk about kind of seeing the post-election feelings of people and their reactions from a quantum physics understanding of how what we believe affects how we feel, and then ways to cope with that or ways to shift our beliefs. So really good time to have an example of understanding the power of energy. If you know me, you know my big message is that corporately we can change the world if we'll just change what we focus on. And, there's a lot to be said for being a Pollyanna. So going to talk about that later tonight and help you understand more why and how to cope with disappointment or fear about what's happened this week with the election. So enjoy the rest of your day. Be blessed. And if you don't tag me later in this other show, then hope you have a great weekend. Bye.